All right, we are going to look at lesson 1.9, estimating roots. It is on page 82, so if you need to pause the video and get to that page, please do so now, page 82. All right, we're going to estimate roots. So we're going to start off with the square root of 8. The square root of 8 is not a perfect square number because there isn't a number times itself that equals 8. So we're going to estimate what perfect square the square root of 8 is closest to. So I know that the square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and then 3 times 3 is 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. So the square root of 8 is closer to the square root of 9, so our best estimate is 3. And this number line right here tells you, it shows you on this number line, here's the square root of 4, it's 2 over here. Square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 8 is going to be somewhere over here, and it's closer to the square root of 9, so your best estimate is 3. Okay, let's try the square root of 83. Okay, so I want to figure out the nearest perfect square before and after it. We're going to figure out what two perfect squares the square root of 83 falls in between. So I know that 9 times 9 is 81. So the square root of 81 is 9. And then 9, so 9 times 9 is 81. So 10 times 10 is 100. The square root of 100 is 10. So the square root of 83 falls in between these two. It's closer to the square root of 81. So my best estimate is 9. 9 would be my answer. Okay, let's try a few more of these. Let's try the square root of 35. Okay, so I'm going to figure out what perfect square falls before and after this. So I know 6 times 6 is 36, so the square root of 36 is 6. And then that means 5 times 5 would be the square root of 25. And 35 is closer to the square root of 36, so my best estimate is 6. The square root of 35 is about 6. And let's try another one. Let's try the square root of 170. So I know that 10 times 10 is 100, but I need to get a lot closer to 170. So how about 13 times 13 is 169. So the square root of 169 is 13. That means 14 times 14 is the square root of 196. And so definitely square root of 170 is closer to square root of 169. So my best estimate on this one is 13. Okay, what if we had a decimal? What if we had a decimal? So I have the square root of 44.8. Okay, we're going to actually do this the same way. So we're going to figure out the perfect square that comes before and after this one. So 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. So we're going to go square root of 36 is 6. 7 times 7 is 49, so the square root of 49 is 7. And 44.8 is closer to the square root of 49. So our best estimate is 7 on that one. Okay, now let's take a look at cube roots. We're going to do these the exact same way. So let's see if we had the cube root of 320. The cube root of 320. Okay, so now this time, because there's a 3 as our index, that means we're going to think of a number times itself 3 times and try to get to as close to as 320 as we can. So I know 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So the cube root of 125 is 5. 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. So, 216. So the cube root of 216 is 6. 7 times 7 times 7 is 343. So the cube root of 343 is 7. And now let's check this. 320, the cube root of 320 would fall in between these two. So it's in between 6 and 7. Now, which one would it be closer to? Well, it's closer actually to 343. So the best estimate is 7 for the cube root of 320. It's 320 is closer to this one than this one. So that's our estimate. Okay, let's try another cube root. Let's try the cube root of 62. Okay, so I'm going to think of what times what times what is as close to 62 as we can get. So I know, let's see, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So the cube root of 27 is 3. And then I know 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So the cube root of 64 is 4. And 62 falls in between these two numbers. And it's definitely closer, the cube root of 62 is closer to the cube root of 64. So our best estimate on that answer would be 4. And let's try one more. Let's do a decimal, the cube root of 129.6. All right, even though it's a decimal, we're going to still solve these the same way. So let me start off with 4 times 4 times 4. Okay, so I know that is 64. So the cube root is 64. Okay, we're still pretty far away from that. So let's go 5 times 5 times 5. That is 125. So the cube root of 125 is 5. And that is really close now. So 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. So 129.6 falls in between these two, but it's definitely closer to this one. So our best estimate is 5. Okay, we will practice more tomorrow.